Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the live chat. We've seen so much activity.
So much
We're so
activity.
excited to be here today and spend the next 30 minutes with you. Just to introduce myself, my name is Steph. I'm on the Talent and Outreach Programs team based in Singapore. And I'm a business recruiter and an intern recruiter. And I have my teammate Maya here with me as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Maya. I work with Steph's team. I'm a technical specialist and I work as a part of the online challenge as well. I'm really excited to see all of you logged in today.
Yeah, so on the agenda today, the few things we're going to cover, we've also reviewed your questions, so Don't worry, we'll try to get through all of them, but as you've seen a number of questions, we're unable to answer every single one, but we're going to try our best today. Okay, so on the agenda, we're going to start with a quick internship overview. I'm going to share a little bit more about the hiring process, and then I'm going to tell you what we're looking for, and I think most of you have already submitted your resumes, and we're really excited to go through them. We'll tell you how to prepare, and then Maya will cover the online challenge, and I'll be covering the on-site interviews when you get shortlisted. So let's get started. So overall, our internship opportunity that most of you have applied to today is based out of Singapore. As it is our regional office here, we will be having it from May all the way to September next year in 2020, and we will be having about 10 to 12 weeks with our interns all joining, wherever you are in Southeast Asia in this office. So overall, during your internship, you will be working with our team. We'll be coming up with a really cool intern program for you. You'll be working on really fun projects with our Googlers who are in progress of creating them for you as we speak. And then we'll also be looking at how we can help you understand the 3 pillars, which is what we want you to take away from this experience, which is a great experience or the Google experience of our culture, education so that you have a great learning curve, and then also the exposure to meet and network with lots of Googlers during your time here. So overall, our interview process will kick off on 30th of November, as you've seen from our emails. That is the online challenge, which is the first step. It is not mandatory, but we highly encourage you to take part because it allows us to be inclusive and every student to have a chance to really show us and allow us to shortlist your resume from there. After that online challenge, what you can expect is we'll be going through the projects, we'll be matching your profiles, and we'll reach out to students by January to let you know if you've been shortlisted for a first interview. So we'll have a total of 2 rounds of interviews for the internships. And the first round generally covers what we call general cognitive ability and googliness. Maya, do you want to share quickly what googliness might mean to you?
For me, the biggest thing that comes to mind when you talk about googliness is someone who's a team player, someone who is ready to pull up their socks and really help the team. But I think it differs from person to person, right?
Yeah, it does. So I know I've seen some questions about googliness, I think from one of the students who joined us. So googliness, if you ask any Googler, could be completely different. And it's because it's a value system that we can hold really personal. At the same time, it's what keeps our culture and helps us work together. As most of you might have heard about maybe the culture or how we may work together and things, then we can always use open feedback. So I think that's the part for me that I really consider googliness, which is transparency, because I really like it when people tell me what I'm good at, but also what I can work on and what I can improve on. So that will be the first interview, and the questions could be scenario-based, where we'll tell you a situation that a Googler might have been in, or even from your past experience where you can share with us something that you've done or you feel really proud of in that sense and how you navigated it.
Right.
Once you've cleared that first interview, then you'll receive a call from a recruiter like myself, and we'll be telling you which team we'll be looking to shortlist you for, and we may give you some options and ask you for your preference at that point. So when we ask you for your preference, please feel free to share with us what your interests are, what you're passionate about, what you're aspiring to do. I know there was a question as well about whether you need to apply to something that you're interested in or that you've already had experience in. Not necessarily, but it definitely does help if that's a project that you're also interested to do. So once you get a call from me or another recruiter, we'll then prep you for the second interview, which covers the role-related knowledge and what we call leadership. So these are the core 4 attributes you'll be assessed on throughout our interview process. So with role-related knowledge, I'll be sharing with you what the team's project is going to look like, what skills you'll be having to apply, whether it's analytics, whether it's stakeholder management, whether it's communications or sales or marketing, or maybe it could be a combination of all as well. And then for leadership, I know when I went for my Google interviews, I thought leadership was about leading a team. But contrary to it isn't. What we're looking for in leadership is to understand, how do you make decisions independently? How are you proactive when you see something broken? Are you the person to actually raise your hand and say, hey, how can I help? Or is there something we can fix here? And those are some of the things that we look out for when we're trying to understand leadership here. Yeah, so that's in terms of what we're looking for. And if you need more details on the attributes, you can find it on our career site. And if you're going for the interviews, we'll definitely send you a preparation doc that will help you prepare with some examples. And so now we'll go on to the next point, which is what we're looking for. As most of you have already submitted your applications, that's why you're here today. What we'll be looking for is really students who are ready for a challenge, and you really enjoy sort of a whole new space for you to experience working with Googlers, and enjoy not just doing your project, but making use of that to actually get to know Googlers or even other interns, and building that network and really finding leadership opportunities for you to gain more development. And during the program as well, we'll be looking for interns who would enjoy coming to us with ideas where we can help you build on them and also grow your talent. And hopefully you'll have a great internship experience from there. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Maya to tell you how to prepare for the online challenge.
Thanks, Steph. The online challenge will be actually open from 30th November 9 a.m. to 1st December 9 p.m. It's a 30-minute multiple choice questions, and it will be basically assessing your problem solving and general cognitive ability. It is to help us assess how you actually make decisions, and it is up to you to allot yourself a 30-minute slot anytime during those 2 days. We strongly suggest you actually register early, and you will get a registration invitation from us a week prior to the challenge. The registration email will consist of your unique ID that you will need to register for the challenge. And on the day of the challenge, you will get a passkey that you will need to launch the challenge. At any time, if you're facing any difficulties, my team will be there with you to actually solve any of your questions within the next 2 hours. We strongly suggest you prepare yourself into a perfect place where it's calm and quiet, and you have a pen and paper and a calculator handy to actually work through your challenge. Challenge will have around 10 to 15 questions, and we strongly suggest you have a good internet connection for that 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. So just a quick summary there. So I just hope everyone, so you need your user ID login. For login, you'll get that 1 week before the actual test.
Right.
Second is you'll get a passkey on the morning or on the day of the actual challenge.
Yes.
And then you'll need to log in, and there'll be a website with FAQs and also an email alias for you to actually reach out if you can't get any of your issues solved.
Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to go through our FAQs. And if our questions are still not answered there will be an email address where you can reach out to us, and someone from our team will definitely get back to you and help answer your question in the best of their abilities.
Great. Thank you so much, Maya. Great. So now that we've covered the online challenge prep, let's dive into the live questions that we have. Thank you all so much for the questions. So let's get started. So I think one of the first few questions we have, what is the interview process and timeline like? So overall, the entire interview process is the online assessment and 2 on-site interviews, and then we'll have to review and possibly make you an offer if everything goes well. The timeline that we're looking at is to wrap up everything by end of February. If at any point you have any issues with our timeline and you've been shortlisted, please let the recruiters know, and we'll always try our best to expedite it for you.
Are there any practice questions for the Google Online Challenge? Yes, once you register, you will get to see a sample question that will give you a taste of the kind of questions you can expect for the challenge.
Okay, and the next one, what is the hiring process and how will the test affect our chances? So the online assessments, as I mentioned earlier, it's not mandatory, but it's a really good way for you to, experience what that GCA or the potential questions or problem solving would be like, or logical thinking. It wouldn't be identical to the actual interviews, but it'll give you an idea of structure and how to kind of practice. And in terms of affecting your chances, it's okay if you don't do well. It's okay if you don't participate. But if you do well, there's a higher chance that one of our recruiters will be able to review your resume and shortlist you for one of the roles. Okay, and do we get involved in Google's CSR work as part of the internship? So for those who may not know what CSR is, it's more of like corporate social responsibility kind of activities. So the really cool thing about the internship is it actually falls in the month of June. It covers June. So usually in June we have Google Serve at Google.
Yep.
And what that means is that Googlers actually organize our own projects or volunteering projects. So for example, like my team last year, we had Google Serve, and we actually worked with a company that was teaching coding to students, and we invited kids from a foundation to join us and learn coding. So you could definitely get involved in that. Okay, and next one. So how does Google decide which project I'll be responsible for? And is it based on my previous experience, or can it be my ambition to learn something new? So we will decide based on after our recruiter phone screen, after we've spoken to you after your first round of interview. And also we'll share with you what options we have, and then we can always consult and discuss with you in terms of what is your best shot. And if it's a no-go, how can we help, like maybe scope it out for you and encourage you in the right direction, or give you the right building blocks to do well as well. So please feel free to share with your recruiter whether it's based on previous experience or it's something you're aspiring to. Okay, so from what stage during the recruitment process will we know for what business unit we're selected to? I think this is a similar question, so that would be after the first interview. Yeah. So the next question, I think we've got a lot of questions on the project. So let me just share a little bit. So we've got questions on who you'll be working with. You'll be trying to understand the product areas we might have, the types of project, the kind of task. So overall, what will happen is if you're a successful intern, when you join us, prior to your joining date, we'll share with you obviously who your team is. You'll know who your host manager will be. You'll know what product they're working on, and we'll probably be able to share with you the project details at that point. So when you start, you will have Noogler orientation, which is really fun. You get to meet other Nooglers who are also full-time, and you'll spend a couple of days learning together and networking. And from there, you'll be able to then work with your team. You'll then work with them on understanding what is your scope, what are your deliverables, who's your buddy, and who's your mentor.
Right.
And I think the fifth part that I find really interesting, even from you and I joined as a Noogler, was coffee chats. So you get really encouraged to have coffee chats in your first week, which is to get to know more people and find more leaders who can also help you in the product area that you may be working on. So those are the people that you'll be working with, but by right with your team, you'll have a buddy and your host manager. Okay, and the types of projects that we'll have will be pretty diverse in terms of the skill set. Some examples from this year, we'll have deep dives. It could be, client facing when you're supporting a sales pitch. It could be something like supporting a team with product launches to understand what they should be doing next, or helping them understand how can we make improvisations and things. Okay, and see what other questions do we have. At the internship level, how are candidates assessed based on their Googliness? So for Googliness, it's not about having an work experience. So you could be preparing examples such as when you were in school, like how did you deal with a project, or when you ran into any challenges or roadblocks, how did you overcome it? What were the steps you took? Were you reflective in your thoughts? And then how did you try to encourage a positive outcome?
Right.
Okay, and the next one. How much emphasis would be put on the business-oriented project of the candidates and the number of business case studies in the resumes that they have won in past? Those are always helpful, just like any other employer that you may be applying to. I think anything that you can put on a resume that allows us to indicate more experience, more exposure, or even your interests or your aspirations, I think is always helpful, especially when your project's listed there. It helps us understand if you're part of a community or a student committee. It always helps us understand more about where we should be routing to and whether projects will be a good match.
I think your resume at the end of the day should be your best foot forward. So anything that you've done really well, you should be able to showcase it so that it brings light to you about recruiter to look at it.
We want to get to know you, so but do keep it to 1 or 2 pages. Even though I know most of you have already submitted your resumes, don't worry about it. Just do not like challenge. Okay, and what are the next questions we have? Any tips for the interview? Okay, I'm going to answer the question on the tips for interview, but first I'll go to the ones about the prerequisites. So I know there's a number of questions on whether it's applicable for master's students or MBA students. So you would have seen we've sent out this email and it says to business and MBA students. So for the MBA students, you are eligible as long as you will still be enrolled at the point in 2020 in school. So meaning that if let's say your graduation date is in May, we would highly recommend you to actually be applying for full-time roles instead, because you have a better shot there. And if you're graduating after September or October, then that's when we'll encourage you to definitely give a shot for the internship. Now for the business internship itself, that is actually for our master's and bachelor students and any other degrees that fall there. To be qualifying for that, you have also to be enrolled in a current program. If you graduate anytime before this internship season, we again suggest that you apply to the full-time roles instead of the internships. Okay. We have a fun question, so I shall pick that up. So we have a question from Hansel. So thank you for organizing. What's your favorite experiences as a Googler and as a recruiter? What was your most memorable experience with a Google intern? So maybe Maya can share about your experience as a Googler and I can cover the recruiter and intern.
For me, I cannot deny it. It has to be the food. Food is amazing here. You get blown away. I don't think we've repeated food often here. And it always manages to keep you on my toes. I love the food.
I love the honesty. I think that's the reality. I think a lot of people know about the food, and that's always interesting. But as part of I know food and micro kitchens are very much part of why some of you may be here, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also part about 10X, right? Where we're trying to create an environment where students or even interns or our full-timers can actually enjoy and be in a productive state. Because not all of us like studying in the morning. Not all of us are studying at night. Not all of us, are productive at the same time. And that's why I think that's definitely a perk that encourages us.
And I think another favorite of mine would also be the 20% projects that we get. But that's also another amazing benefit that we have at Google.
Yeah, and I think for myself as a recruiter, I think one of my most memorable experience was, I think last year I had an intern that was from a background that last year we actually piloted this online challenge and we actually shortlisted one particular intern from it. And even though his background was not completely irrelevant, but not typically what we would have hired for a team, we actually made the hire. And so I really like the diversity that we are able to bring in with the online challenge. That's why we're advocating for it and we're putting up this session to really, really encourage you to join us. Okay. Next question. Our team has some questions that we should answer. For candidates outside of Singapore but also within Southeast Asia, will there be a video or phone interview instead of on-site interview? That's a really good question. Yep. So for the first interviews, most of them will be over Google Hangouts. And the reason is because we want to touch as many candidates as we can. So if you're outside Singapore or if your interviewer is not based in the same location as you, it will be over Google Hangout. So if you have any issues logging into that because you're based in a location that doesn't support Hangout, let your recruiter know as well and we'll always figure out an alternative for you. One thing to be clear is that our interviewers are trained to ensure that they give the same experience to candidates that they're interviewing over Google Hangout or in person. So please do not feel pressured to fly into any locations for your interviews. If it's required, we'll let you know, but don't worry about it at all. Okay. And so the next question we have is there a change of level of responsibility of an intern throughout the internship? So I think in terms of the level of responsibility of an intern, you should have a very clear understanding with your intern host when you join. So some of our interns had 5 smaller size projects while some had 3 deep dives of something. So it really varies and our intern program team will actually be there to help you, advise you if you need help with time managing, or if it feels too overwhelming, let us know how we can help and we're always happy to work out, and host managers are really accommodating to ensure that you have a good experience too. Okay, and the next questions. Let me see. Keep the questions coming. I've applied to. Okay, I see a question. I've applied. All the questions are coming so fast. So hold on. I've applied to several Google locations, which each carry a unique process. Or will I Will I be having a Southeast Asia process and then have a choice into locations? So usually what I would say is that for the career site, you can apply to 3 roles at a time, right? So if you're planning to apply into 3 different regions, then go ahead. So one in US, one in EMEA, and one in APAC, which might be Singapore. What happens is that we try our best to share leads across, but most of the time, we will usually hire into our local market. So if you're interested in Southeast Asia's process, then you will interview with us. And if you also get shortlisted for a role in, let's say, London or in Mountain View, it will be their own interview process as well that will be running. But let us know as well if it's going in parallel, because then the recruiters will always sync up to ensure that we're not repeating and we're giving you a good experience there. Okay, and next question. Wow, there's so many questions. Does the internship contain digital marketing? Okay, so I think in terms of digital marketing, as some of you may know, like Google Ads is one of the core products, core revenue for us. So there may be internships that will cross over there because it's one of the core products here. So it may contain, but not necessary, not mandatory. Okay, so what are some of the most unique experiences interns got to enjoy or learn while on the internship at Google? So for the intern program this year, typically what the intern program looks like is like there's onboarding. Because some of the interns may start pretty staggered throughout the entire season, we will have a period of time where we will have an intern offsite where they actually get to suggest, and we have a committee to suggest what activities or fun things they want to do together. This year they had a yacht party on Sentosa, which is just about 15 minutes from our office in Singapore. And then they also got to do a TGIF takeover. So Maya, were you there at the TGIF or no?
I actually think I missed it, but I taken part of the intern bingo. That was a part of it as well.
That's true. So intern bingo was like they came up with a challenge of how to get interns more noticed in the office, and it's something to make intern day more visible. So they had a bingo challenge where they had things for Googlers to participate and give away cool swag, find the interns in the office and take a photo with them. And then after that, we had intern TGIF where the interns were able, they had their own. I think they had a special drink at the barista. Where they got to create their own intern-specific drink. And also, we have a burger bar in Singapore, so they were able to make an intern burger. So that was pretty fun. I mean, that's all the fun. And on top of that, the core fundamentals, they got to do workshops on influencing. They got to do workshops on general cognitive ability, on how to do mock interviews. For future interview trainings. We also had leadership people who came down to spend time with them and take their questions. We call them fireside chats. And then we also had a coffee chat club where we had Googlers globally on a list, and the interns would just reach out to them to get to know about what they're doing and get advice on, really things that they wanted to do or even their career aspirations. So that's in a nutshell what that looked like. Okay, so will we be assigned specific mentors during the internship? So during your internship, you will have your host manager, who will be, be helping you with your scope of work, ensuring they're connecting you with the right people to get your role done. And then, of course, in terms of mentors, it's up to you how you want to make. Like I think at Google on my own, I have my manager and I have my peers like Maya and my team. But over coffee chats, you get to know people who kind of align with you in terms of your career aspirations, and they're always there to chat. We even have an internal site, Grow. You want to share with them a bit about Grow and the things that you can find on Grow, like learning?
You actually have a lot of self-learning activities as well on Grow. So, like, let's say if you were technical and you want to learn how to code, for example, and you have no coding background, you actually have Googlers who are willing to teach that. And also, like I mentioned previously, the 20% projects that are available that allows you to actually engage with another team and actually be a part of their team on a 20% capacity that allows you to explore things which is outside of your code. And I think there are also non-technical workshops in there. So you can actually, and we had a lot of the studio upstairs that allowed us to do keychain making, and those are interactive classes as well. So Grow is actually quite amazing, and that literally allows us to grow not just intellectually but also in every way that matters.
Cool. And So the next question we have is, what kind of candidate is Google looking out for the internship position? Do you have any tips for us to stand out from the crowd? Do the online challenge. Right, that's what my answer is. So do the online challenge. That really gives you a bump for our recruiters to really zoom in. That will be our priority first. But in terms of how can you stand out, so I know we've talked a lot about general cognitive ability, and I know some people are like it's kind of confusing, but I'm going to give you like 5 quick steps in terms of how you would stand out from a different candidate in an interview. So what you would want to do when tackling any problem solving questions or GCA questions as we call, the first step when you hear the question is to always take a moment, calm down, don't be nervous, make sure you understand what you're trying to fix. Right? So you would ask clarifying questions to your interviewer. Let's say Maya was my interviewer. I would try to define the question a bit more, and then I repeat to her, like, what is the problem statement? That's your first step. Then your second step to stand out from the crowd as well is to actually prepare your strategy. Sounds intimidating, but really what you're doing is just talking through the kind of factors that you'll think about, the kind of data points that will impact this problem statement, right? So these are the 2 things you can do to definitely stand out from other candidates, because some of the frequent or some of the things that candidates tend to do is dive straight into a solution without really sharing with us your thought process.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for is not just the right answer, because there isn't always just the right answer. We want to understand how you got there. So it's all about talking it through, having a conversation with your interviewer, and then understanding it better and then getting into your solution. So that would be the third step of getting into it. And then if I can just throw in the other 2 remaining points, one would then to support your solution on why you would choose it, and then the result that you hope to achieve. So I hope that answers your questions in terms of how to stand out, in terms of quick tips on interviewing. Okay, so do interns get a chance to work in cross-functional teams? So I think that this is subjective to the intern, and also to the scope of the role or project that you're working on. But most of the time they do, because if you're doing something that's a new deep dive, for example, into a specific product in a new country, then you work with cross-functional teams to get data, kind of like the second part in your GCA where you would actually gather as much information as you can and factors to be able to deep dive into your project. Okay. And would you say that Google environment is friendly to fresh interns? So I've never been an intern, so I can't like say, but what I will say is the feedback that we got from our interns when they went back to school to present this year was one of the things that came up was they never got a no from someone that they proposed a coffee chat with.
Oh.
Yeah. Like one of my interns actually reached out to someone in the US because they were really interested in something related to coding or AI. And the person actually sat down and had a half an hour coffee chat with them over Google Hangouts. So I would assume from there and that means that people are pretty friendly. Okay, what makes Google Singapore different from the other Google offices around the world? I would say with any office, they're all different from each other because they're all localized. So I think one thing you'll find in any Google office that you get to visit, it's always localized, whether it's the meeting room names, whether it's the cuisine they're serving. For example, like Bangkok has coconuts in the office, or in Singapore, we have pop-up local coffee and tea stores every month. And also all our tea drive that we spoke about, which is every Friday where Googlers come together. It's always themed to a different culture or a festivity or something like that. So I would say I think Google is different from other offices, but every office around the world is pretty much localized to where they're from and the city they're in. Okay, and so we have 1 more minute. So let's do one last question. Actually, I have a question from Maya.
Sure.
So Maya, you mentioned that the online challenge, you need the user pass key, and then we obviously have a lot. I saw just now we've got so many people from so many locations.
Right.
If they are logging in from a different time zone, and let's say they're going in on 1st December, and it's 15 minutes before the end, Like, do you think that they can still complete the challenge in 15 minutes?
Absolutely. They can actually complete the challenge if they started, as long as they started before 9 p.m. On the 1st of December, Singapore time.
Yeah.
We strongly urge you to actually take the time zones into consideration. We've actually noticed cases in the past where students actually forget to pay attention to that. But as long as you started before 9:30, you will 9 p.m., you will still be given 30 minutes to complete the challenge.
Okay, that's great to hear. Okay, any other questions on the online challenge? I see a quick question from Hui Lee. There's a 10-week minimum period for this internship. I'm on an MBA program and just got 8 weeks for internship. So for anything, just to kind of wrap up on the last question, I know that all of you are really global students and not everybody's academic calendar will be the same. If we do shortlist you, please be clear with us in the beginning so that we know how to manage your potential and match you to the right projects, and we can manage the timeline for you. And so with that, we just wanted to say thank you for joining us. And also there's a feedback form right below. So please fill that in so that we'll know where we've done well. And of course, in Google Way, feedback is a gift, and we really appreciate you spending your time with us. So thank you so much.
Thank
and
you
we hope
so
to
much.
see you at the online challenge.
Bye. Take care.